John, you in the truck? Let's figure something out here again. I'd like to know what's the perfect exposure so I can go and reset my zebra if possible. Would that work for you?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the FIS Nordic Junior U23 World Ski Championships right here from Bristol Olympic Park in the beautiful Callahan Valley of British Columbia, Canada. And we are getting ready for the 20K Master Classic technique for our U23 men. And if it's going to be an image of any of the racing we've had this week, it's going to be another very high profile race and very exciting one as the athletes have everything on the snow to win the world title. But once again, it's going to be 4 laps around the 5K red course. Every lap is 5,267 meters here. 63 athletes from the 25 different nations. Definitely some nations will find strength in numbers in this event once again. That's the way it's played out for our junior and U23 races already. Interesting to see if that is the name of the game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I wish there was like a variable NZ or something.
Yes, absolutely. And we saw during the women race previously today, pretty good kick during the whole race. And that's one of the aspects of the classic style race is that you need to have a good glide but also a good kick during the whole race, because usually within the last lap that's where mostly the attack coming in. If you don't have that kick to respond well, then you're done. So very important job for the two, and also the condition are quite perfect right now to have the good mix today.
So John, just to confirm again, this is the proper exposure here. Okay. Thank you very much for your help.
Norwegian team starting the top 10. The final moments of the bib and transponder pickup process are now happening. So if you've not been to go now, I think everybody is pretty well done. Just filling some of the bags from our vantage point is what we can see. And we'll be getting ready to welcome our athletes to the field of play very soon. And once again, in for a great race. Alors évidemment, même processus, 20 km style classique. On est sur le parcours rouge, toujours 5267 mètres partout. Et cette fois-ci, on imagine que la force des nombres parmi les nations viendra jouer dans le résultat final.
Oui, effectivement, on retrouve donc pour ce départ 25 nations qui seront représentées avec 63 skieurs qui seront dépassés plus 23 pour ce départ de masse du 20 km. Parmi les nations, évidemment,
everyone, welcome back to Whistler Olympic Park for the 2023 FIS Junior and U23 World Ski Championships. We just saw the U23 women race the 20K Star Classic. We've got the men coming up shortly. I'm Steve Scholes. I've got Tim Wintagno here, longtime coach here in Canada. And Tim, wasn't that an amazing race for the women?
What a dramatic finish. You know, Bergana led for 19 kilometers of that race, and it came down to a sprint finish. I can't wait to see what unfolds in the men's race today.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the men's race, but let's take a quick look back at that U23 women's race. Okay, so here is the start of our women's race, Tim, and it was Margreta Bergana leading the pace.
Yeah, and Steve, an interesting note is we saw yesterday with the junior men and women and now with U23 women that those distance skiers went for that pace early on, pushing the pace, yet those sprinters were able to hang on and come back, as you can see here.
So Bergana pushing the pace, but it was Fosnes, the silver medalist from the sprint, at the end, pushing away from the German Lisa Lohmann. And fantastic Fosnes flying to the finish and taking a U23 World Championship. Very unexpected. She said during the race, or after the race, Tim, that she didn't think she could stay with Bergana, but she did.
Exactly. Every lap she came through there and was like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. And somehow I got these superhuman powers and was able to hang on to that pace and sprint to the finish for the gold medal.
What an exciting race that was, and it brings back memories of the 2010 Vancouver Olympics when the great Kowalczuk of Poland went up against Bjorgen of Norway in the 30K mass start, and it was Kowalczuk winning that one, but this time Norway made sure with Fosnes taking the gold. Now let's take a look at the course, Tim.
Yeah, and so this is the mass start, 20 kilometers. They're doing 4 laps of this 5-kilometer red course. You know, they start off slight downhill. We've seen some bottlenecking happening off that start into the first climb. The two things of note are the 2 major climbs on this course. First climb coming around that 750 meter to 1 kilometer of the course, and the second one takes us over the top of the course to halfway through that lap. So watch for some of those distance skiers pushing the pace over those climbs and trying to break away from the sprinters.
So we can see the U23 men getting ready. Definitely some strong skiers, some World Cup skiers, some Olympians in this race. Going to be interesting how it shakes out, if there's going to be skiers that try and set a really fast pace, or if it's more of a tactical battle waiting for that final lap. So let's go through, Tim, some of your picks as the top skiers.
Yeah, so one of my favorite skiers for today is Jonas Vika from Norway. You know, he came 4th in the sprint, and he's known more for of a distance skier, so definitely one of my favorites for today. And then American Gus Schumacher. Watch for him. He's had some amazing races on the World Cup. You know, he was world junior champion in 2020 in the 10K Classic. Watch for those two battling it out today.
Yeah, Gus Schumacher definitely set this as a goal for his season. A few other names to mention. Elia Barb of Italy. He's had some strong races recently.
Yes, Steve,
national champion.
He's my
Italy.
dark horse for today.
But also some of the Norwegians. Andreas Rie, the 50K Norwegian senior champion from 2022, and also Edvard Sandvik of Norway. He's definitely someone to watch for here. And there you can see some of the Canadian team getting ready, and there's the British team, Tim.
Yeah, and that's Gabe there he's originally from Strathcona Nordics here in BC. He's a dual citizen, and he's now racing for the Great Britain team.
And also Joe Davies, born in England, then he grew up in BC, and then now back in racing for the British team. Okay, here we go. Here we are again, Whistler Olympic Park, site of those 2010
Olympic Games, the Nordic events, and now it's the FIS 2023 Nordic Junior and U23 World Ski Championships. Interesting day. We had snow early on, Tim. A little bit of sunshine, but it's going to be interesting to see how things go conditions-wise here at Whistler Olympic Park.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. As we were driving up, snow was coming down. I thought that was going to be a factor in the women's race, and it wasn't. And clearly, there's no snow coming down now, as you can see in the screen. So I don't think snow is going to be a factor for waxing in this men's race.
Okay, so the men will be doing the exact same distance as the women. This is the first FIS World Ski Championships where the men and women are doing the same distances for Nordic, 20K, mass start, 4 laps of a 5K course. And we can see the athletes are getting excited. We're just a few minutes away from the start of 20K, and it's going to be interesting. Tactical battle, or is someone going to push the pace?
Yeah, and we saw in all the 20K mass starts so far at this championships that those distance skiers, the favorites for the 20K, are pushing the pace right from lap 1, yet those sprinters are hanging on and end up sprinting for gold.
Okay, Tim, so let's go through again some of the skiers to watch for.
Yeah, so you can see on your screen there, bib 103, Gus Schumacher from the US of A. You know, he's definitely one of my favorites today. World Junior Champion from 2020, the 10K Classic. He's an Olympian. He's had some awesome races in the World Cup. Look for him out there dominating.
Also, 101, Amand Korseth. He was 21st in the World Cup in Lillehammer in a mass start classic race. Now that was a really close race. Gus Schumacher, as you mentioned, was in there as well. A few more of the U.S. athletes getting ready. That's 106, Johnny Steele Hagenbuch.
Another one of my favorites, Jonas Vika from Norway, bib number 110. Look for him. He was 4th in the sprint. He's known more of a distance skier, but we know he has that finishing kick if it comes to that today.
And Andreas Rie, 50K national senior champion in Norway. That was in the skate technique. Another American to mention, 112, Luke Jager from Anchorage, Alaska. Also skis with University of Utah. Good sprinter, but also good
bib
distance skier.
123, Joe Davies, Whistler native here. He was born in England, but spent a lot of his life living here in Whistler, skiing on these trails. So look for him skiing on his home trails.
And then some of the Canadians, Tim.
Max Holman, coming from Thunder Bay, currently training in Canmore, and Sasha Masson, who had that great sprint qualifying for the heats from the Yukon.
And there we see 146, George Earson, who was a medalist from the sprint. Erickson Moore from Canada.
Yeah, also training with the National Team Development Center in Thunder Bay.
And we see a lot of the countries, different countries represented: Great Britain, Australia, Chile, Spain. 25 countries represented, 63 athletes in this race. Again, wondering how the strategy, how the race is going to play out. Again, in our women's race, Bergana set a furious pace, but was not able to shake 2 skiers.
Steven, that's what these racers have to plan for. They have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, because they never know how that race is going to unfold until they're in it.
And there we see Gus Schumacher, 103, 105, Rousset of France, 101, Korseth, 102, Andreas Rie. They're on the front line there, getting ready for 20K Mass Start Classic. There's Julien Arnaud. 30 seconds to start. You can also see 112. Luke Jager of Anchorage.
You can see there Arnaud there, no gloves.
That is kind of a French thing, to go with no gloves in a race.
Yeah, it's a little cold. I don't know if I would be doing it out there.
Okay. Under starters' orders, here at Whistler Olympic Park, 20K for the men. And we are underway. 20K Classic Mass Start, U23 World Ski Championships for Nordic. This is day 4 of competition. We already had the sprints. Now it's the Mass Start Classic races. We saw the junior men, junior women, and the U23 women earlier today. The juniors were yesterday. And we're underway on this first climb out of the stadium.
And again, that bottleneck there, it looks like everyone's clean, no broken poles. There's a lot of coaches lined up there with spare poles in case any athletes break equipment.
So I could just see 106 from the U.S. team near the front. Johnny Steele, Hagenbuch. He actually won the American Birkebeiner as a 19-year-old. So that's a mass start skate race. 19, the youngest ever winner of that, the biggest mass start, biggest recreational event in America, the American Birkebeiner. So he likes the long distance and the mass start races. So you can see 106 just on the left side on that pack.
I believe that's the largest ski race in North America for number of participants and probably cash payout.
Yeah, definitely. He would have won 10 grand for that win as a 19-year-old. That's a pretty good payday. And yeah, American Birkebeiner gets up to 20,000 participants every year. So that'll be coming up in about a month's time. But right now, our U23 men are underway in their 20K Classic mass start race, final race of the day. The women's race was incredibly exciting. And there you see Johnny Steele Hagenbuch on the right of your screen. Again, Tim, I am wondering if this is going to turn into a bit of a Norway versus U.S. battle. You know, we saw in the women's race Norway, Switzerland, and Germany in the battle, but I'm feeling like U.S. might have a strong chance here to battle with the strong Norwegian team.
Yeah, Steve, I would agree with you. It could be this Norway U.S. battle, but you know, there's still so many unknowns in a race of what could unfold, who could win. Some of those favorites, you know, they could crash out, things like that. So a lot can happen over 20 kilometers.
And one thing that's interesting with the American and the Norwegian teams, so if you recall in the Junior World Championships back in 2019 and 2020, the Americans won gold in the relay, and 2 of the members of that Junior World Championship gold relay team are here racing. And then in 2021, the Norwegian men won that Junior World Championship relay, and 2 of that team are racing here in the U23. That would be Andreas Rie and Edvard Sandvik. So really interesting to see those juniors now 2, 3, 4 years later battling in the U23 category.
Yeah, that is. That's good to see that they're still in the mix, racing strong, and will they come out on top today?
Now another skier just moving up there, 119, Gieselman of Sweden. He's up front. So far looks fairly relaxed here. I mean, still quite a few skiers in that pack. And we saw in the women's race, Bergana setting such a furious pace, it was down to about 15 just on this first climb, this first big climb. There's 2 big climbs. This is the first of the 2 big climbs each lap.
Yeah, I wonder in this men's race if they're going to be a little more tactical, a little more surging, coming back together, surging again. We might see a larger pack out front for more of the race than we saw in both the junior men and women as well as the U23 women's race.
Because there you see the big pack streaming onto that downhill. And this downhill is pretty much the only place you get some good rest. You get a significant straight downhill.
Yeah, you can see as the skiers go through your screen, they're actually able to get into a tuck, you know, get some oxygen in. Here they are in the tracks. They're getting rest. Whereas the rest of the descents are always twisting and turning and not any track set up. And so you're constantly pushing from one edge of your ski to the other edge of your ski and not getting the same amount of rest for the body.
Okay, so just looking at our top 10, we can see that Gieselman was up front, Korseth from Norway, Hagenbuch of the U.S. Also in that top 10, Gus Schumacher from the U.S., Rie from Norway, Jonas Vika up there as well, and Elia Bart from Italy in the top 10 going up that climb. Now they're on the descent.
But Steve, you even scroll down into like 50th places, still 10 seconds back. That's still a big pack skiing together. Any one of those skiers can move all the way up.
Okay, so we can see on the course profile, we're just after that 1 kilometer, that 1,000 meter point, that first big climb. Then they're on that descent, and then they head up to the second big climb on this course. Again, Tim, 4 laps of 5K.
So you can see on the map, there's a bridge that they actually ski under. That's the start. coming under that bridge, the start of the first climb where we just saw them come all the way up, and then that long straight section is the descent where they actually get the recovery. You can see the rest of the course is lots of twists and turns. They twist and turn around, and the next time we come into camera will be the next big climb, taking them to the very top of the course, which is about halfway through the lap. And then from there, they're going to have a rolling section and slowly start descending, making their way back to the stadium.
And what we saw in the women's race was the Swiss team was just falling off the pace on the big climbs in the first half of each lap, but on the downhills, they were catching back up to the lead pack, the lead three. But then on the final lap, it wasn't quite enough. They'd just fallen off the pace enough that they couldn't catch back up on the descent. And what we're going to see is we're going to see our pack come up to the big climb. But we're just before the race, Tom caught up with one of the athletes. Yeah, so one of the coaches.
In our U23 men, perhaps the best hope for us is Remy Drolet. He's a 2000 or an Olympian from last year. He's also attending Harvard full-time. And I just came off of the Tour de Ski where he struggled a little bit with some health. But I think he's back now and looking to improve on his racing from earlier in the year. And then the rest of our racers are relatively young and inexperienced, coming out of a post-COVID haze. Then, they don't have any international racing experience to speak of, and this is their first under-23 championship. So we're just looking for them to follow their process, and hopefully the results will come with that.
And Steve, you can see here just how large that pack still is. They're about 2.5 kilometers into this race, halfway down that first lap. They're going to do 4 laps, and that pack is still together.
Yeah, it looks like there's still about 50 skiers close together on that big climb. So what you're seeing here is they're coming up to the top of the course. This is the top of the second big climb. You can see Amund Korseth from Norway leading it, but it's still a very open race here. Again, this is 4 laps. They're at about 2.5 kilometers into a 20K race, halfway through the first lap. So that was a great discussion with the Canadian coach, Eric Denise, and he mentioned Remy Drolet, and we're gonna get a interview with Remy Drolet a little later in this race. But the Canadians had some strong races with the women. Jasmine Lyons and Liliane Gagnon, 13th and 12th.
Liliane 12th, Jasmine 13th. And Remy, skiing at the Olympics, he's definitely one of the favorites, the top Canadians out there. But one person to keep in mind too is Max Holman. He had an amazing race at trials in the 20 kilometers. He had a huge crash at our trials right off the start, broken poles. He had to take skis off to get untangled and fought his whole way back to finish 4th overall on that day. So watch for Max out there. He knows how to suffer. He knows how to push through that pain, and we'll see where he ends up today.
Okay, we're going to go down to Tom. He got caught up with some of the groomers here at Whistler Olympic Park.
Hey, thanks. I'm here with 2 vital components of this race, Simon and Dirk, both groomers that helped make the course today. Simon, how much effort does it take to get this all going and make it perfect for the races?
Well, Tom, it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of preparation, starting right back to November. Course preparation begins then right on the ground level, building the snowpack, packing the snow in, building the trail up, and making sure we have great race courses for everyone this week.
Dirk, how much have you put in a lot of effort for this event too, I'm assuming?
Well, they've asked me to come in and be sort of a go-between between the technical part of the jury group and then also so I meet with the jury, get all the needs of the day, and then come and sit with Simon and let Simon know, make sure that the start grids are in the right place, the lap lanes are in the right place, and there's always course tweaks to do here and there, and just get all that information relayed on, and then I can go home and go to bed, and Simon keeps working.
And what's the key part of this 20-kilometer race for you?
Key part of the 20-kilometer race? Well, from a grooming perspective, it's only 5 kilometers, so it's not that bad. But, I mean, Simon did do it 15 kilometers yesterday, 3 laps. Basically, to get the course ready, we take out all the tracks from the day before. So that would be a full pass on the left side, full pass on the right side, and then the course is flat. And then Simon will put the tracks in, you know, on the perfect line through the whole 5Ks.
Okay, that was a great discussion with the groomers here, and they've been working really, really hard, Tim. And there we see 123 coming to the front.
Yeah, and that's Joe Davies, the Whistler boy, who's skiing for Great Britain, as well as Xander McMullen from the U.S. Bib 111 was also out front. So it's great to see, you know, this big pack skiing together gets a chance for other athletes to come forward, push the pace, see where they stand up against these international racers.
There we see Erickson Moore for Canada coming through the picture. But yeah, Joe Davies, Whistler native, dual citizenship, now with the Great Britain team. He's had a great season. He had a World Cup, a good result in the World Cup. He's been training in Norway with the big project that the Great Britain team runs in Norway. And I gotta say, he's looking pretty good. He's got that orange on the arms and on the legs that you'll see that the British team has. And actually, when he came through that 4-kilometer time check, he was leading that pack, but it's still a really large pack, almost 40 skiers.
A little inside info on Joe Davies as well, as he's got quite a passion for coffee, photography, poetry, and finals. You know, it reflects on his dedication to those finer details.
Yeah, a Renaissance man. And here we go. He's near the front. You can see again that orange top, the toque or the ski hat is orange, and you just see on his arms and his bottom of his legs the orange. That is Joe Davies.
And it was going back to that interview that Tom did with those groomers. It's so awesome to see how much work goes into an event like that. You know, they're out here in the middle of the night grooming these trails, setting the course up for these athletes to race on. You know, sometimes if the weather changes, things like that, they gotta time it just right to make sure those tracks are at their absolute best for these races. And here we can see athletes taking feeds. Again, it's super important to get feeds early on the race, especially after this first lap. So they're just finishing the first 5 kilometers of the race and are taking feeds already to make sure those energy sugar levels stay up in the body.
Now leading into the stadium is Gus Schumacher of Anchorage, Alaska. Looks like he's got some good skis. So they're gonna descend to the stadium. This is completing the first lap of 4. That is Gus Schumacher of the US. He won a gold medal at the Junior World Championships in 2020 in the 10K Classic interval start. He also anchored the US team to 2 Junior World Championship gold medals. And there's that iconic image of Gus Schumacher attacking on the final big climb in Lahti, Finland to take a breakaway and win the gold medal for the US in 2019. And there he is, Gus Schumacher out front. And also in there, Xander McMullen, 111. He skis up in Anchorage with the Alaska Pacific University team.
And you can see there, Steve, as the racers come through the lap, you know, about 27 skiers still in that lead pack. You know, Max Holman there in 27th. Yeah, so it's great to see such a big pack still for this men's race.
So Luke Jager in there, Joe Davies from Great Britain, Remy Drolet, number 19 is in there. Gabe Gledhill from Great Britain, but also lived for many years on Vancouver Island, not too far from here. Max Holman sitting 27th spot right now in that front group. Sasha Masson in that front group as well from Whitehorse in the Yukon for Canada. Johnny Stillhagenbuck in that lead group as well, sitting 32nd right now.
And Steve, as they come across your screen here, you know, the pack is still together, and it doesn't look like anyone's really pushing the pace right now. They all look really relaxed as they're skiing up this climb, you know, so different tactics than what we've seen in the women's race and the junior men, junior women's race as well.
And it looked like one of the Swedish skiers, 117, Kavanbrink, getting a replacement pole there. You could see he took off one pole and then put on another. So that was a safe exchange there, not too penalizing. When you break a pole, if you're still in the pack and there's lots of coaches with extra poles, not too bad. And here we go. Look at this, 2 U.S. skiers in the front, Schumacher and McMullen. I was thinking it might be a U.S. versus Norway battle. It's still so early, but U.S. moving to the front.
Yeah, do you think those 2 U.S. skiers are actually working together to control the pace of this pack right now, Steve?
I'm not sure, but you can see 4 U.S. skiers in that pack. You can see Johnny Steele-Hagenbuch just falling off the pace. He's known more as a skate skier, but he's in that pack right now.
So look at this. My 2 favorites for today, bib 103, 110 out front. This is looking good for my bets.
Yeah, those are the 2, I think, strongest Norwegians. So Andreas Rie, who took this amazing 50K Norwegian Senior National Championship last year, was an interval start skate race. You don't see that too often at the 50K distance, but he won that, and he beat guys like Holland and Kruger in that race. That was a skate race, and actually, Andreas Rie just made this team this year. A lot of expectations going into the season after that race at the Norwegian Championships last year, but he just made the team with a strong result at the Scandinavian Cup just a couple weeks before this. And then Jonas Vika, who was a top result 4th in the sprint 2 days
Steve,
ago.
you know, that just goes to show you the depth on that Norwegian team. And so if you're Norway trying to make some of these teams, whether it's junior championships, U23 championships, World Cup teams, you have to be on top of your game every single race.
Okay, now it looks like the Norwegians are starting to push the pace. Gus Schumacher, the American, in there. Gieselman is the Swedish skier in there, and there we go. 3 Norwegians going to the front. Now you're starting to see things stretch out a little bit. I think that was Rie, Korseth, and Jonas Vika pushing the pace with Gus Schumacher, but I'll just confirm that. I'm not sure on the 3rd Norwegian there. I believe that might be Edvard Sandvik up there, but now a little bit of things stretching out. But again, this is the downhill where you can rest a bit.
Downhill, I'm not too concerned. Definitely things can come back together. We saw in the women's race, you know, things got stretched out early on, but in that next climb, when they head to the top of the course, things did come back together. So we'll see what happens in our next camera angle.
Now this is the one place you get a rest on this course, because big uphills, and yeah, a lot of downhills, but they're really windy, and they've got definitely lots of twists and turns. So skiers on the descent, they're making their way over to the second big climb that'll take them to the top of this course. And this is the second lap. If you're just joining us, second lap of 4 for the under 23 men here for 20K Mass Start Classic here at the FIS 2023 Nordic Junior and U23 World Ski Championships. 18 minutes into this race, the Norwegians moving to the front. Gus Schumacher of the US right in there, the Anchorage, Alaska athlete, looking good so far. He's had some decent results in the World Cup. He is also a junior world champion in the 10K Classic from 3 years ago. Speaking of some champions, let's go down to Tom talking to the great Paralympian Brian McKeever.
Hey, thanks guys. I'm here with Brian McKeever again on course. Brian, it looks like it's shaping up to be like a similar race like last time and a huge pack of really strong men. What do you think is going to happen in the next K?
I don't know, man. It's anybody's guess right now. It's early on, and of course, you know, the strong guys are already moving to the front. Norway's moving up, and you know, Scandinavian countries in Classic are always tough to beat, but the Americans are holding tough, and a couple of our boys are in there too. So it's yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, there's definitely some Americans. Do you think the Americans can compete with the Scandinavian countries, or do you think the Scandinavians are just going to be able to pull away from them?
I think they'll do great. I mean, Luke Jager's been super strong, and Schumacher, of course, is always strong too. So, you know, Olympic experience for those guys, that'll serve them well. But I think Sasha's up there for us, and he's always fun to watch. And looking for Max Holman to make a charge here too. He's been skiing so well this year.
Who's your favorite for the race today, would you say?
I mean, it's hard to bet against the Norwegians, but it's always fun to see them get challenged as well. So I don't know. I'm excited to see the finish.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Tom, for that great update.
Yeah, you can see, Steve, that
Brian
pack's
McKeever.
come back together. Hey, we did see it string out on that downhill, but there's definitely a group back together here at the top of the course here, 2.5K into the lap.
So the Norwegians pushing the pace here on this climb. Gus Schumacher looking quite comfortable. Joe Davies in there, sitting number 10.
Remy Drolet still in there.
Oh yeah, he looks like he's starting to struggle a little bit, but this is the hardest spot on this course. On the second lap, Luke Jager in there.
And here comes Max Holman. If he can just put in a little surge up over the top of this climb and get onto the skis, up the skiers ahead of him and help pull him around the course.
One of the Italian skiers there, Poli, Fabrizio Poli, 115. Sosau just falling off the pace. I see 154 in there. That's Gabe Gledhill.
And there's 101 Kurseth. You know, the top-ranked Norwegian had first starting lane, and he's fallen off the pace just slightly.
That is surprising. He was 21st on the World Cup in Lillehammer early in the season. But, you know, this is one of the things with the Norwegian team. There's so much depth, Tim, that it means that the Norwegians have to be ready early in the season to try and make some sort of impression. And that is maybe what's affecting Kurseth here. He's not at his peak. He had to peak in November or December to try and get the attention of the team selection committee and get on the Norwegian team.
Not only did he have to peak then, but he had to peak even earlier to get onto that World Cup.
That's right. So always a tricky situation trying to make the Norwegian team. But the other Norwegians, Ree, Sandvik, and Vika are right at the front of this race. And again, what you're seeing here on your screen is the very top of the course. Now onto the descent. 3 Norwegians and an American in the front 4. Gus Schumacher, the Alaskan athlete. Then Joe Davies is in that pack. And there you can see, just going through your screen, that is Remy Drolet from right here in British Columbia.
Silver medalist from World Junior Relay Team.
2020. They were just behind the American team that year. Remy Drolet, and he was coached by Dave Wood, who we saw earlier in the women's race out on the course.
Exactly. And I believe Dave is still involved in his coaching. Dave Wood, who was the coach of the Canadian national team at the 2010 Olympics.
And speaking of Remy, Tom Stephen caught up with Remy before the race.
I'm here with Remy Drolet, Canadian national team athlete, racing the U23s. Remy, what do you think about the race course? What is it going to shape up for you?
Well, it's a really interesting race course with a lot of surprises in it. I think you can have a lot of different races on there depending on the conditions. Like when nationals were here last year, races kind of stayed bunched up together and it was really hard to break away. But as we've seen from the junior races here, it is possible for breakaways to happen and for packs to be shattered. So it's kind of, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the race, but I'm really excited for it and I'm ready for no matter what.
And is this a course that would suit you typically?
Yeah, I think so. It's got some good striding sections and some fairly long climbs, even though they're not overly steep, but I think that'll be good for me.
Awesome, yeah, thank you so much.
Now, one thing that's interesting, Tim, about Remy Drolet is he's actually going to Harvard University for a physics degree while he's training for these races. So very strong and very smart athlete.
Yeah, talk about balancing skiing and school. He must have excellent time management skills in order to achieve both at such a high level.
So there we see, just going through that time check, so Remy Drolet in the top 15. Kavan Brink of Sweden sitting 15th spot right now. Then you start to see a little bit of more separation, but Joe Davies right up there, Remy Drolet right up there. Luke Jager of the US just falling off the pace. So what do we got? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 skiers. 14 skiers in that lead pack, and that is Remy Drolet, the Canadian, just on the back of that pack. And this is coming to the conclusion of the second of 4 laps. So we're approaching the midpoint of this race. Remy Drolet of Canada sitting 14th. Also in that group is Joe Davies, the skier with dual citizenship, Canadian and Britain. He races for the Great Britain team, and he was raised here in Whistler. So a really cool event for Joe Davies, and he is in that lead pack, and he's got the orange on the arms and the legs and the top of the hat.
This looks like the chase group coming up over the last climb before they lap through the stadium. And as they lap through the stadium, it's going to be the halfway point of this race. A lot can still unfold, a lot can still happen, you know, but we've seen a little bit less pushing of the pace off the front than we've seen in the other races earlier today as well as yesterday.
So you can see the athletes getting a bit of a feed there, and I saw the Japanese skier, Hirose, who recently won 3 gold medals at the World University Games in Lake Placid. Here we've got a Swiss skier leading in. This is Neufer from Switzerland.
Yeah, he definitely pushed it over the top of that hill. I wonder though too, because there's a feed zone there, we noticed, you know, when I'm watching reels from the 2010 Olympics, if athletes don't take a feed at the top of that climb, they have a little bit of an advantage. They can open up a bit of a gap versus athletes who are taking a feed, taking the time to grab a bottle, have something to drink, and you can see the pack has reeled them back in.
There's the Swiss skier. And there we've got the Norwegian skier, 110. That's Jonas Vika now leading here. This is the completing the second of 4 laps.
And as they go out into this 3rd lap again, remember it's like 4 or 5 minutes of climbing right off the start of this each lap. And so I feel like if you're feeling strong, that there should be, you know, a surge happening. Someone's going to go for it. They might be starting to push that pace and test the other people in this lead pack.
So 14 skiers in that lead pack. There's the second group. It's being led by 107, Jan Friedrich Duix. And just to give you a sense of how fast that front group is going, Duix took a silver medal in the 30K Classic at the World Junior Championships in 2021. A very strong skier who's had some strong results recently,
Here
but
comes
not able to
Max
make that
Holman
front
from the
pack.
Canadian team through your screen. Grew up in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Now living in Canmore, Alberta.
Yeah, Max Holman had that incredible trials race, as you talked about, Tim, where he fell early on, got caught at the back of the pack, fought on, got 4th place in that Canadian trials
he was
race.
well off the pack with that crash. You know, it was like a pretzel trying to get untangled, taking skis off to get up. 2 broken poles, had to fight his way all the way through the pack. And their bib 120, Remy Drolet, who Tom had interviewed earlier, it's so awesome to see him still up in that lead pack.
So 14 out front, and 123 on the right of your screen, just going over the climb is Joe Davies. You can see 111 in that second group. That's Zanon McMullen. Then 106, Johnny Steelhagenbuch. And then Luke Jagger, who's just coming to your screen. So there's 2 Norwegians leading the charge. Andreas Ree, the 50K Norwegian senior champion in the 50K skate from last year, pushing the pace. And again, he just made this team. It was very close for him not to be picked for that team. And he's deciding now to push the pace. You can see the body language that he is definitely trying to push the pace, trying to cause some separation right now. Some of the other Norwegians starting to suffer a little bit. Gus Schumacher in there.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. Definitely the tempo is a little higher than we've seen in the first 2 laps. You know, again, Ree being a distance skier, he doesn't want those sprinters to hang on to him for that finish.
And you can see Kavan Brink of Sweden gritting his teeth, falling off the pace. There's Duix from Germany, McMullen from the US, Chiocchetti, the sprinter for Italy up there, 125, and then 101, Korseth, not on a good race today. The World Cup 21st place race in Lillehammer back in November. not able to hold the pace, and now we've got some more separation.
Yeah, it looks like 6 skiers going away there. 7th just trying to hang on.
And one of those skiers is the Japan skier, Hirose. Again, 3 gold medals at the World University Games in Lake Placid just a couple weeks ago. Then came across the North American continent from East Coast to West Coast here in Whistler. And oh, does he ever look good. 114, the Japanese skier, looking very, very strong. And again, the Japanese skiers have had limited racing opportunity because of COVID. And Hirose now going to the lead for Japan.
Oh, Steve, he looked so strong on that climb. There was no sign of fatigue, and you clearly saw that as he came into the lead.
So 8 skiers, 9 skiers, 10 skiers have been through your screen. There's Joe Davies, 11th. So they're on that first big climb. They're on the 3rd lap, so they're past the halfway point. 3 Norwegians in there. Oh, look at the skis of Hirose. Maybe he's got a little more grip, but he's definitely struggling a bit on the descent. You could see him pulling while all the other skiers were in a tuck.
And that's that fine balance of finding just the right amount of grip to climb these hills, but having your skis as fast as possible for the descents.
So, and this is that one spot on the course where you get a bit of a rest. You can go into a tuck, and there looks like Remy Drolet just on the descent. You just get a little bit of a rest, and then you start to head towards the 2nd big climb. And they're on their 3rd lap right now. We've got 6 to 10 skiers in that front group, depending on how you want to define that front group. And we'll see them come up to that big climb to the top of the course shortly. But Hirose looking extremely good on the climbs, but his skis don't seem to be ideal on the descent. And that looked like Luke Jager just going on the descent.
And he's gonna see that happening out there, and so he's got to now make a decision if he's want to stick with these skiers or if he's going to break away on these climbs early, because we know the second half of that course is mostly descending.
So one thing, Tim, you know, we've got the cross country on today, but tomorrow we're going to start with the Nordic Combined and then the ski jumping coming up.
That's right, Steve. And not only are there individual medals here on the line, but there's bragging rights, especially in that junior category, for the Mark Hodler Trophy, as you can see in your screen.
There's the trophy right there. So that's the overall junior world championship trophy. So there's points for all the disciplines and all the races in the junior category. Mark Hodler, the long time, 47 years, led the FIS through many changes and many developments in the International Ski Federation. That trophy named after him. And typically Germany and Norway are the 2 big countries competing for that.
They're usually battling it out, so we'll see. Right now, Norway's in the lead for that trophy.
Norway's first, Sweden is sitting 2nd right now. And here we've got, look at
my
this.
2 favorites are 1-2.
Vika Schumacher.
The climb.
Yeah, so Vika, who had a 4th place in the sprint, which was unexpected. He's more of a distance specialist. Schumacher from Alaska for the American team, 103. Then Neufer of Switzerland just behind them. Also in there, 119 from Sweden. That is Gieselman. The French skier, Julien Arnaud.
And
right
Joe Davies, 123, still trying to hang on to that lead pack. That's great. Great skiing by Joe Davies.
But desperate moments here, because this is the big climb. Now, if he can regain, if he can control his pace and then regain on the descent, and get a little bit of rest after this descent, but it is quite a winding descent. Also in there, the Italian, 122, Giovanni Tico. And there is Joe Davies, the Whistler
Slipping
native.
a couple times there, but 1-2 slips, that's okay. Sometimes just readjusting your weight shift over top of that ski to make that grip wax work.
Now he is having a solid race here, but he's actually a better skate skier than Classic, and they've got the interval start race coming up in 3 days for the U23 men, so look for him in that. And then there's 120, Remy Drolet.
Remy Drolet in 14th place, 26 seconds off the lead. Great race for Remy. hopefully he can reel in some of those skiers in front of him.
So some of the American skiers coming through, the Italians. So again, Tim, we were talking about the Hodler Trophy. So the Nordic Combined, the team event starting tomorrow. And we're gonna have Billy DeMong and Max doing the commentary for the Nordic Combined and ski jumping events. And Billy DeMong and Max, they are very excited. Billy, of course, winning the gold medal in 2010 in the Nordic Combined event.
Yeah, Steve, I was just going to say there's some history here with Van Whistler and Billy, and that piece of history right there is gold medalist from the 2010 Olympics.
And he brought his gold medal here. He hasn't been here since those 2010 Olympics, so he's brought his gold medal with him. And again, they'll be doing the commentary, and understand he's also going to go for a ski with us after this race, and he's getting ready for a big battle with the former American skier Luke Bodensteiner in the Soldier Hollow Grand Tour event coming up in a little while. But turning our attention back to the U23 race.
Sasha Mason coming through his screen bib 139. Yeah, the Yukon native currently training out of Quebec Training Center. And here are our leaders coming down second half of the course.
So we've got about 10 skiers in that lead pack. Jonas Vika out front. American Gus Schumacher in there.
And this is back to that top of the course, 2.5K into the lap. That's Erickson Moore training in Thunder Bay, skiing up over the top. Again, these skiers are working hard, but they do have some descending back into the stadium as they go on to their fourth and final lap.
So we had 11 in that front group, and 3 Norwegians in there, 1 American, Gus Schumacher. And they're on the 3rd lap. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the 3rd of 4 laps. Still a large pack out front. The leaders have gone over the top of the course. Now they've got a lot of descending back towards the stadium. There is a small climb. You remember from the Olympics, there's that small climb, and then they descend into the stadium. So we just saw Korsech of Slovenia go by, Lars Young-Vik for Australia go by. He's been on the World Cup this season, Dolhescu for Romania. And this is 129 just coming through. That is Malchov of Bulgaria. And there's our lead pack. Now moving to the front is Gieselman of Sweden. 108, Julian Arnault going without the gloves. Sitting second right now. Schumacher there just on the middle of your screen, 103. Giovanni Tico, the Italian in there. Now just at the back, Jonas Vika. Looks like he's maybe just holding on.
Yeah, and they got about 1 kilometer to go until they're back in the stadium, going out onto their final lap. So they've just passed about the 14-kilometer mark of this race. Still got a group of 11, it looks like, in this lead pack. And they're coming probably into the trickiest corner out there. Hey, Steve, the snaking descent. You know, they do a right-hander, and right away they have to set themselves up into a tough left-hand corner.
Yeah, here we go, that snaking descent. So you see a sharp right corner here, and if you just look closely, you see them have to set up for a quick left-hand turn.
And because there's a group of 11, you saw them all stand up there. They don't want to carry too much speed and be too tight. They want to try and string themselves out so there's no one stepping on each other's skis, breaking any poles, keeping things nice and clean as they head out into the last little climb and then into their last lap.
Yeah, this is shaping up to be really interesting. Large pack finishing up. This is that little climb they have to go above the stadium. Not a little climb, it's a decent sized climb, but smaller than the other 2 big climbs.
Probably bigger than any climb you have in Winnipeg, hey, Steve?
That's true, yeah, it's definitely a decent climb. And there we've got at the front, I think that's Ree at the front, or maybe it might be Sandvik at the front for Norway. There is Joe Davies. He's just off the back of that pack, the Whistler native, now with the Great Britain team. And there is Hirose of Japan. 3 gold medals at the World University Games just over a week and a half ago in Lake Placid. He's gone from the 1980 Olympic venue to the 2010 Olympic venue, looking for another good result. But let's watch the downhill
probably
for
skis
him.
lots at the 1998 Olympic venue in Japan.
Interesting little, you know, the Swiss skier just putting his hands out saying, just slow down a bit, slow down a bit.
He's trying to create a little space around himself as well, so there's no one stepping on skis, breaking poles. And again, you can see, you know, when they started that third lap, the pace started to pick up, and things slowed back down. There's a little bit more surging happening in this men's race versus one or two skiers pushing the pace the entire way around.
So 118, that is Nicola Vigor. His sister, I think, raced yesterday, but Nicola Vigor up there, 118. Also in there is the Swiss skier Neufer, who is the Swiss champion just from a few weeks ago in the 15K Classic, as they now finish the third of 4 laps. We're heading out into the 4th lap, and we've got 11 skiers in our lead pack to decide a U23 world champion. Arnaud of France, 108. 118, Vigor of Switzerland. Gus Schumacher in there for the Americans.
Yes, he's still in there.
Just at the back.
Bib
just
103
at the back.
there.
But this is very different. The Norwegians are not pushing the pace now. The French skier Arnaud leading the charge here. Vigor in second for Switzerland. Gieselman, I believe, sitting third for Sweden. Schumacher in there just at the back of the pack. Hirose from Japan.
And again, Steve, they're probably climbing. As soon as they lap through the stadium, they're going to be climbing for about 4 to 5 minutes, almost continuous. So, you know, if someone's going to be pushing the pace, they're going to want to start pushing here on this climb. For one of the first major climbs of the lap.
So who, Tim, out of this group right now, obviously we've got the 2 big climbs coming up, but who of this group, if they can get to the finish, who would be your pick to win a sprint?
My 2 picks right off the start are still Bib 110, Jonas Vika, and Gus Schumacher 103. And we saw that Vika can still sprint, coming from 2 days ago coming 4th in the sprint. So he does have a finishing kick. If he can hang in there with that lead group, look for him in that final.
And there we see Remy Drolet, 120, just in that second group. Also just at the top of that climb, 123. That is Joe Davies. But this is our lead pack heading out onto their final lap. 11 skiers dreaming of a U23 World Championship here at Whistler Olympic Park. The Swedes, the Swiss, the Norwegians, the French, the Italians, the Americans, and the Japanese, all in the running for a world championship. Almost the entire globe on the edge of their seats watching with bated breath here. This is the first of 2 big climbs on the last
coming
lap.
through the climb here, Steve, I'm really trying to look for any body language, anyone really shoulders rounding out, and yet this whole lead pack, they're all looking pretty good still, maintaining their posture as they climb up that hill.
Now this was the climb that Andreasen attacked on right at the top. She made an attack, but this is still a big group. In that case, it was Andreasen attacking one other skier. But it'll be interesting to see if anyone tries to make a move on this climb. They know they can attack hard because they get a little bit of a rest, and then they're going to hit that big climb, the biggest climb shortly after that. So we'll see if anyone tries to make a move on this climb. The 2 Swiss skiers, Nicola Vigor and Neufer, are the 2 Swiss skiers, and they're near the front.
Go. It looks like those 2 Swiss skiers are trying to break away on this climb, and oh, there's a response by the rest of the pack. Seems to reel them back in.
And there's Neufer of Switzerland.
And Vika from Norway, Bib 110.
And then Arnaud with no gloves on. Yes, there is a move here. This is Neufer of Switzerland trying to make an attack. Most of the pack still holding there. He's got a couple meters. Neufer making attack. Arnaud, but the pack is right there. And Schumacher I think Schumacher is still there in that pack. They've got that descent that they can rest on. And then there's the big climb to the top of the course. Final lap here. U23 men, here we go, the descent. They're all there. Schumacher's got the skis. He's got to get through this next big climb. And then there's 2.5 kilometers of a lot of descent. Schumacher has the skis. He's moved back up in about 8th spot there on that descent. He's got a little bit of a rest.
Yeah, so what that's telling us is for that second half of the lap, he's got fast skis for that descending part. He's just got to hang on for this next big climb coming up.
So definitely, I would say the Swiss skiers have surprised us here. Neufer and Vigor, very strong races. Neufer, who is the Swiss champion in the 15K Classic, which he took just a couple weeks ago, so he's showing some form there. Nicola Vigor, he was 3rd at the National Championships in the 15K Classic, but he is in this lead pack, and he's helping push the pace. And this is the last lap here for the U23 men, mass start races, 20K Classic. Just day 4 of 10 days of competition here at Whistler Olympic Park. We had the sprints, now the mass start races. For the cross country, the interval start skate races for the junior men and women will be on Thursday. The U23 men and women skate interval start will be on Friday, and then the mixed relays on Saturday. We've got the Nordic Combined starting tomorrow, which will bring you all that coverage live tomorrow with the Team Nordic Combined event. Billy and Max will take you through all of that, but right now, we are in the final few kilometers of the U23 men's mass start race here at the 2023 FIS Nordic World U23 and Junior Ski Championships. And we're gonna see them very shortly come towards the big climb on this course, and they're gonna come to the top of the course. Schumacher of the US, just holding on to this pack, but showing he's got some really good skis. There's a lot of descending once they hit the top of this course here at Whistler Olympic Park.
Yeah, a lot of descending, but again, it's not straight descending like we saw. And Schumacher, we saw him, he was off the first climb, and here he is leading the pack up the last major climb of the course, and then it's mostly descending back to the stadium.
Wow, Schumacher, who looked like he was falling off the pace, caught back on in the descent, moved to the front. This is the final big climb on the final lap. Schumacher looking not too bad, but 124, Neufer of Switzerland pushing the pace now. He wants to try and pull away here on this last big climb, making a charge. The 2 Swiss skiers moving to the front as they head to the top of the course here. They'll have 2.5 kilometers. Schumacher trying to stay in there. Hirose of Japan sitting 3rd. So that is the lead pack. And it looks like Schumacher just double poling a little bit there. It's just a bit of a false flat, Tim.
Exactly, so they're using their technique, kick double pole, where they're using their legs and their upper body when the hill isn't quite as steep as what they just climbed.
So 11 skiers in that front pack. Giovanni Tico, the Italian, just hanging on the back of that pack. He raced in the World Cup Tour de Ski with a 44th place overall standing, so a strong skier on the World Cup. Then you had that second group, Joe Davies sitting 15th place right now.
And here's our top Canadian, Remy Droulet. Oh, one slip there as he's climbing up to the top of the course. And Zanda McMullen from the US right in behind him.
Yeah, these skiers, now what's happening, Tim, is as the race progresses, some of that kick wax is coming off.
Yeah, the other
and also
thing,
they're getting a little weaker.
The other thing that's happening is there's just been so many skiers on this course. So we had the women go round and round 4 laps. Now we have the men going around, and the track is getting glazed because we are gliding on a thin film of water. So there's more and more ice glazing on that track, which causes them to slip a little bit more as they kick over the hill.
So there's a couple of the French skiers in that lead pack, Julien Arnaud and Remy Bourdin. Julian, he did race the U23 championships last year in Norway. Not any great results, but certainly today looking good. Now the Swiss skiers near the front. Also in there, Jonas Vika, a little bit of pushing. Schumacher staying upright.
Yeah, hopefully they can stay out of trouble on this twisting corners on these descents.
So 11 skiers in that lead pack. They're on that descent. They're into the final couple kilometers of this race. I don't know how to handicap this. I think Jonas Vika showed that he can, in a sprint race, he can sprint well, but you just don't know at the end of a 20K race how your body's going to react.
I feel like the two Swiss skiers are putting a surge on the top of every climb, and I bet you they're going to try to put a surge on that final climb before going into the stadium. And so we'll see if anyone can actually go stick with them. And here we have Sacha Masson coming up over the top of the course.
The skier from Whitehorse in the Yukon.
Both his parents were Olympians for cross-country skiing.
And he had a great sprint race. He made the heats 2 days ago. So this is the top of the course you're seeing, and we're gonna see shortly the main pack come into focus. 11 skiers, and I just have no idea how this is gonna unfold. Schumacher clearly's got good skis, but I think it's gonna come down to the best double poling in the stadium. There's about 300 meters of double poling in the stadium, but there is that small climb.
And here are our leaders, the two Swiss skiers, again, I think are gonna keep pushing the pace here. They know Vika's a strong sprinter, and they wanna try and tire him out before that last 300 meters.
Okay, so the Swiss skiers now pushing on this final climb. 118 is Vigor, 124 is Newfer. They're pushing the pace. Arnaud, the French skier, 104 Sandvik of Norway.
So 1 kilometer to go here, Steve.
Gieselman of Sweden falling off the pace. They've got a little more of a climb, and then the descent into the stadium. But clearly, the two Swiss skiers want to push the pace. Oh yes, here, they're just coming down this descent. That is Jonas Vika pushing the pace. Now here's the snaking descent. So there's little descent and then the climb up to above the stadium.
That's correct, Stephen. Things are going to get a little trickier here. They're 19 kilometers into this race. Their legs are tired, screaming at them. It's a tighter pack, more skiers. It's going to be tricky navigating around those corners.
So more skiers on the descent. There's Joe Davies, 123 with the Great Britain team. And 11 skiers, and now a move by Jonas Vika. Jonas
Look
Vika.
at that turnover, Steve, as he goes up the last climb.
And Arnaud trying to respond. Jonas Vika making a charge. No one able to react. The Norwegian skier, fourth in the sprint, going for a medal here, going for a potential world championship. This final little climb up above the stadium, that is Jonas Vika, 110. He's got a gap now. Who can respond? It's Julian Arnaud, and then another Norwegian. I believe that's Sandvik. Gus Schumacher sitting 5th spot. They're charging to the top of this climb. Now into the descent.
Vika looks behind him. He knows he has a safe lead. He's got to stay on his feet around this corner and make sure he still has a strong double pole finish so no one can reel him in.
Jonas Vika leading into the stadium. I think it might be an insurmountable lead. Edvard Sandvik in second. Julian Arnaud in third. Jonas Vika leaning it out. Now the sprint. Jonas Vika holding on. Edvard Sandvik in second. Then the battle for third. That is Arnaud battling with 102. That is Ree. Schumacher in 5th. The final corner. That is Arnaud. But that is Jonas Vika. 4th in the sprint. But he's going for a world championship. Edvard Sandvik in second. Then the sprint for bronze. Arnaud is 3rd spot, but it's going to be Jonas Vika, U23 world champion. Sandvik in 2nd, and Arnaud from France with the bronze. Ree in 4th. Jonas Vika, an attack on the final climb, and he is a world champion in the U23 category.
He is pumped, and he skied that course amazingly. You know, letting those Swiss skiers pull him around, letting them attack, and then he set himself up for that final attack on the climb, and no one could respond to that final push.
So also up there, Schumacher, I think he might have finished in 6th. More skiers coming in, that's Korseth. Jan Friedrich Durks. There is Joe Davies, Whistler native now with the Great Britain team.
Yeah, Joe's got to be pretty happy with that race. 15th place overall. That was a tough field to be competing in. And there's the winner celebrating. What a race for Vika.
And Arnaud, I'm going to say a bit of a surprise in 3rd place, going without the gloves. And it got him a bronze medal. And now we've got Remy Drolet, 120, the top Canadian. He's going to be in 17th spot. Xanon McMullen.
And for Remy Drolet, as we heard earlier, Steve, Eric Denys mentioning, you know, battling with some health issues, some sickness. It was great to see him come back and still have a great race today.
Here's 141 coming in. Jan Stolben. But Jonas Vika, shout out of the medals in the sprint. And there's the Swiss skiers going, man, that was great attack. And there's Julien Arnaud. You know, last year he raced in the U23 World Championships, but certainly nowhere near a 3rd place. He was 19th in the Classic and now in the 3rd.
And Max Holman finishing up now, 25th place. This is Max's first time at the U23 World Championships. Last year he was at World Juniors. This year we're U23. He's got to be pumped with that result.
Julien Arnaud celebrating with the French team. And there are the 2 Norwegians. That is Jonas Vika.
You know, Steve, you talked about Vika coming 4th in that sprint. Do you think that was a little bit more of a surprise, him being 4th in the sprint? Because all the research I've done on him is he's a distance skier, and he was definitely my favorite to win today.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was more of a surprise in the sprint, but it highlighted how the shape he was in, and he delivered today. Here's 154 coming in. That is Gabe Gledhill.
From the Great Britain team, but has spent a lot of time skiing for the Strathcona Nordics team based on Vancouver Island. And Sacha Mason finishing right in that pack.
Jonas Vika.
So Steve, I just want to talk about that. They're trading skis there. So what he's doing is actually handing in the skis he raced on to a service tech and getting a pair of skis. They're called the podium skis. And so it's the pair of skis he can walk around with. You know, maybe some champagne's getting sprayed on them right now. Yeah, that is champagne. And so the podium skis can get beaten up a little bit more, while his race skis are now taken in, cleaned up, and getting ready for another future races.
So Skoglund from Sweden just coming in, and there's another Canadian, Ericsson Moore, trains in Thunder Bay here in Canada. Earson, one of the sprint medalists. He was ahead of Jonas Vika in the sprint, but quite a ways back in the 20K mass start.
And that's what you typically see, Steve, those pure sprinters, true sprinters. They're often always in those finals, and then when it comes to a long distance race like this, the 20 kilometers, you know, they're not always in that lead pack.
And here's Fromelt from Liechtenstein coming in. So again, just look at the results. Jonas Vika, Edvard Sandvik, Julien Arnaud, Andreas Rie, Remy Bourdin, Gieselman of Sweden, Schumacher of the US, Tico of Italy. Those are your top 8.
And there's Vika most likely doing an interview with the NRK station back in Norway.
There's 143, Lars Youngvik, the Australian team. And this is Dolhascu of Romania. 25 countries in this race. There's one of the Slovenian athletes, Korsech. And the top Canadian in 17th was Remy Drolet, the top American, Gus Schumacher. Gus Schumacher in 7th spot. 11 skiers in that finale. Jonas Vika attacking on that last little climb.
And again, like we talked in that women's race, that climb, you know, watching the 2010 Olympics, so many skiers attacked on that climb. We saw it happen in the women's race, and Jonas Vika did it here today.
Yeah, Norway made up for, you know, if you think back to the race in 2010 in the 30K where Norway got beat by Poland on that final stretch. Norway made sure today taking 2 wins on that final stretch with the women and the men in the U23 category. And that's James Sleeman of the British team. I got to think that Joe Davies, the Whistler native now with Great Britain, is happy with his race. He is going for, I think, also the skate race in 3 days. So I think, and he's a little bit better skater than Classic, so I think he's pumped for that race coming up in a few days for the U23.
Yeah, definitely today's results shows the form he's on. He's got 2 days, you know, to get some recovery and refocus, and then see what he can do in that individual skate race on Friday.
Yeah, so we'll actually, for the skiers, the cross-country skiers will take a day off tomorrow, and then the juniors will get going again on Thursday with that interval start race, and the U23 again on Friday. The Nordic Combined starting tomorrow. That is the Brazilian athlete, Silva. First time we've seen him on camera. Their top skier, Jacqueline Moreau, went to the Olympics several times. There's 147, Matila. And then 162, Horsfall of Great Britain. And there's Silva of Brazil coming into the finish. The 20K mass start for our U23 category here at Whistler Olympic Park. So, Tim.
One thing here, just like, again, just a little bit of info, you know, shaking a bottle. It's real important that these athletes get some kind of protein shake, some kind of recovery drink into their bodies as soon as they can after the race. And so that's what we see here. One of the Swedish athletes having a recovery drink. Again, it's so taxing on the body, racing at those speeds for 20 kilometers.
There's one of the Chilean athletes, Martin Flores. He's more of a sprinter, but he's tackling this course here for the 20K mass start. But yeah, you know, just talking a little bit about the organization here and the enormous volunteer effort, and they've been working on this games for 3 years, and more athletes involved in these championships than were at the Olympics here in 2010.
Well, just probably Nordic athletes. There was definitely more athletes at the 2010 Olympics, but at the actual Nordic site, there are more athletes here than were at the Olympics, and mainly because there's 2 categories. There's a junior category and a U23 category. But yes, Steve, 3 years of planning. You know, I think a lot of spectators, a lot of the athletes, they don't realize how many days, hours, weeks have gone into the planning of these championships. So it's just so great to see how everything's running so smooth. They've done an excellent job. Yeah, and hopefully we can host more races like at this caliber here in Whistler.
Yeah, maybe we'll see another Olympics. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe 2030, maybe 2034. That would be really incredible.
It'd be great to see 2034 here in Whistler, Vancouver area.
So the sponsor for today's events is Salomon. Salomon, great skis and boots, and we've seen lots of great performances by Salomon skiers here today. And I'm always recommending to people Salomon skis and Salomon boots. That is the way to go They brought you this racing today.
So
Okay, so there's some of the one of the Australian skiers. That's Adam Barnett.
A lot of good skiers. So, yeah, it was fun stuff, but challenging that day as well. How were the conditions? They were good. They were changing. They definitely got warmer by the end of the day. So, what did you say now?
Yeah, one thing that's interesting, Tim, in the World Championships, you know, if a skier gets lapped, they continue on. Some of the World Cup, if you get lapped, you're eliminated. So this allows all the countries, all their athletes to finish the World Championships. And you see some of the countries that are developing their programs, like Chile or Chinese Taipei, they're able to race here. So there's your podium, Tim. Jonas Vika, Edvard Sandvik, and Julien Arnaud for the U23 20K Classic race. 2 Norwegians and a Frenchman.
And Steve, just another connection to Whistler here. So Arnaud, part of the French team. I know in that wax trailer, they have Etienne Letendeur, who is originally from France, resides here in Whistler, and coaches the Whistler Nordic Development Center biathlon team based right here in Whistler Olympic Park. You know, a great program for biathlon here in the country, and a number of skiers are currently on the senior national team that have come through that program.
Yeah, so they've got some inside information in a sense from Etienne helping them wax. And Julien Arnaud going without the gloves. And that paid off today. I'm not sure what that is about the French team. You see that a lot, but it seemed to work for them. And I'm sure they were inspired by the performances of the French team at the World Cup in this recent last weekend. So great job by Julien Arnaud to take a bronze medal out of that pack. And there is the Australian skier Adam Barnett. And they race during the summer months, or the July, August, September. So they don't get too much time on snow leading up to this. Typically they have to travel to North America or Europe.
But Steve, wasn't a record snowfall out at Falls Creek, Australia?
Yeah, it was interesting. Falls Creek, which is a big ski area, both downhill and cross country in the Australian Alps. It's about a 12-hour drive south of Sydney, southwest of Sydney.
And for our American viewers, I believe the American national team went there this summer.
Julia Kern and Jesse Diggins went there. Massive snowfall. I was talking to one of the Australian team members, and they said they were skiing on Christmas Day in Australia at Falls Creek. And they're sponsored by Falls Creek. So if you're ever in Australia and you want to go skiing, check out Falls Creek. But definitely this year, big snowfalls, and that certainly helped the team.
Yeah, and for them, skiing on Christmas Day, that'd be like us skiing in the middle of June here in the Northern Hemisphere.
So this is one of the Chilean team, Martin Flores. I talked to him one of the first days we were here, and he's a sprinter. But the Chilean team, they only get about 2 months of skiing a year. They're all from a club in the higher altitudes, about 60 kilometers from Santiago. And they came here for about a month to prepare for these championships. They stayed in Princeton, British Columbia, a little town, and skied and trained for about a month leading up to these championships. And there are the rest of the teammate. I love this. The rest of the team, when I went to see them, they just had these massive smiles, and they wanted to talk. They wanted to, just have some fun. And this is their first ever World Junior Championships, and they're supporting each other through this event.
Oh, I'm thinking of those massive smiles, going back to opening ceremonies. That was, felt like so many days ago, but that Chilean team, their smiles were so big opening ceremony day. They were so excited to be here. It's awesome to see that team support out there on the trails today.
And I'm pretty sure Martin Flores is happy to see the top of this course here, mostly downhill for the next 2.5 kilometers for the Chilean skier. So still lots of racing and action to come. You know, this is just day 4 of competition. So again, the cross country, we've got the interval start skate races coming up Thursday and Friday. Juniors on Thursday, U23 on Friday, and then the mixed relays on Saturday. So Saturday morning, afternoon, evening in Norway and Sweden and Finland. And I mean, obviously Norway has had some great results, but I'm very interested to see the US, Sweden,
Germany,
and Switzerland. Switzerland is very interesting here. They've had some really strong skiers, and the mixed relay is 2 men, 2 women, one woman skiing classic, 1 woman skiing skate, and similarly for the men. I am very interested to see what the Switzerland team does. They've had, you know, they've been just knocking on the door of some great results, some top 5s, some top 10s.
Yeah, 5th in the women earlier today, 5th, the Kalin sister, 5th in the junior women. 2 top 10s today in the men. Yeah, there are some great results. So that's consistently that top 10 knocking on the door. It'll be some exciting racing on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's 4 times 5K, so it's 20K total, but each skier skiing 5 kilometers in that mixed relay. That's both junior men and women and the U23 men and women coming up this Saturday. And also the Nordic Combined and ski jumping coming up. And I saw some of the images, Tim, of the ski jumping. And when you're on the top of the ski jump, you look out on those mountains there, and it's spectacular. Although I don't know if I would want to try the ski jump. That seems rather treacherous for myself. But we are going to go for a ski with Billy DeMong, the gold medalist from the Nordic Combined events from here in Vancouver in 2010. And he's going to pick up the Nordic Combined and ski jumping and announcing along with Max when that comes starting tomorrow with the team event, Nordic Combined, tomorrow.
Do you think we could convince him to go down off the jump?
You know, it was funny talking to Billy DeMong. He hasn't jumped this season, and he's not too eager to jump in, you know, first off jump on the big jump here at Vancouver. But he is excited about his upcoming battle with Luke Bodensteiner in the U.S., the former U.S. Olympic skier. They're going to go head-to-head in the Soldier Hollow Grand Tour 30K in a couple weeks. So he's trying to get some training in while he's here at Whistler Olympic Park. And, you know, a lot of people see this venue and they're thinking, oh, this is for major events, Olympics or World Championships. But you can come up, ski here, you drive up the Sea to Sky Highway. It's about 2 hours. They've got great trails. Yeah, they've got hard trails, but they've got easier trails. They've got great backcountry skiing. There's other places around Whistler to cross-country ski.
Yeah, they have dog trails here. You can come skiing with your dog. I love skiing with my dog, you know, and you know, going through some of my notes, you know, our 2nd place winner from today, Edvard Sandvik, one of his favorite training partners is his dog, Rago. So, you know, having the ability to train with your pets, oh, it's great that they have it all here at Whistler Olympic Park.
And there are the Olympic rings. 2010, what an Olympics that was, and what a World U23 and Junior Championships this has been. And it's still only day 4. We're wrapping up day 4, but 6 more days of wonderful competition here at Whistler. So we got some of our athletes still to finish. That is the stadium. 300 meters of double poling to finish things off. And one thing you can kind of see here, and this is a good image, it's not completely flat. There's a bit of a falls flat, then a bit of a downhill, and then a bit of a falls flat into the finish.
And that little rise, that falls flat, that's what sucks. All the little bit of energy that you have remaining out of you, especially after racing around that track 4 times.
And there is Martin Flores. I know we've got lots of Chilean fans joining us on the broadcast. They're watching one of their athletes finish up his race here. So just thinking about our top performances today, Tim, just to recap that. So first place was Jonas Vika, and that's who you were calling for, Tim.
he was my favorite for today, so it's good to see him win.
Yeah, you've been calling for that since the sprint. I think when they were when the race finished, and you said, "Hey, that's my guy for the distance races," and he got fourth.
Yeah, what is he doing in the top 6? He's my distance guy, but clearly he is in good shape.
Edvard Sandvik for Norway in second, Julian Arnault in third, Rie of Norway in fourth, so 3 Norwegians in the top 4, Remy Baudin of France in fifth, Gieselman of Sweden. He looked like he was falling off the pace, but he fought back to a 6th place finish. Schumacher of Alaska in 7th, Tico of Italy in 8th, Viga in 9th, Nufa of Switzerland in 10th. And then Hirose of Japan just behind.
And Hirose was looking so strong in that 4th lap in those climbs. You know, he didn't look like he was fatiguing. His posture was there, but I think his skis were just a little slower in those descents, and that hurt him in that final half of the last lap in that sprint finish.
And I believe Sandvik, if I recall correctly, he was actually, his club team recently won the Norwegian Relay Championships. So he was showing some good form, but I think a silver medal here was quite an accomplishment.
Yes, that was a big accomplishment. And also, you know, one of our Canadian coaches here, Tormod Vatten, who's the U23 coach for Canada, one of the coaches at the Alberta World Cup Academy, which is a training center in Canmore, used to coach Edvard at his club a number of years ago. So I'm sure Tormod was cheering for him on the side of the trails.
Now, yeah, it looks like he's from Oslo. He's a full-time or close to full-time engineering student. And he's also a Norwegian champion in mountain biking. And his dog, Rago, is his best training buddy,
I know,
he says.
so.
Yeah. But the engineering student built a 2nd place finish today. Takes home a silver medal. And there's Martin Flores finishing up. The Chilean team, the sprinter from the Chilean team, I think they're only U23 athlete, finishing up here in the men's Mastar Classic.
All he has to complete this one, aiming for the line. In this U23 men's.
Yeah, looking at Arnault, he was 3rd place today, 19th last year in Norway in the U23 championships, but improving greatly today, getting a bronze medal. And here is Martin Flores getting the cheers of the crowd here at Whistler Olympic Park.
As we welcome Martin Flores to the finish line. Bravo!
Bravo indeed.
Well done. Yes.
Chile's first ever World Junior and U23 championship.
Good job, Martin. Well, Jacques, this completes our race portion of our day.
Well, Tim, some very exciting racing today. I mean, the women's race came down to a sprint of 3. And this race, it was a pack of 11 coming down to the final kilometer. And there is your top 10. Jonas Vika coming out on top.
Yeah, Steve, it was a little bit different in this U23 men's race than we saw in all the other 20K races. You know, the junior women, the junior men, the U23 women, all the distance skiers were pushing the pace right from the start, whereas in this men's race, there's a little bit more surging, bringing that group back together, and that's what led to a group of 11 coming into that final climb, where Jonas Vika just threw down some boosters.
25th, Max Ullman.
Yeah, great race for Max. Still a young skier, first year in the U23 category. Same with Sasha Mason, first year U23. Some great racing from those two.
Luke Jager, 33 from USA. Erickson Moore from Canada, 41st. Trains in Thunder Bay. Some of our British skiers, James Sleeman and Horsfall, 53rd and 56. There's the Olympic rings. So another great race here at the U23 and Junior World Ski Championships for Nordic. And so we're going to go to awards, and after that we hope to hear from our top finishers. So here's the start of the men's U23 race, Tim.
Yeah, and definitely on this first lap, that men's race, they were a little more chill, a little more relaxed, you know, held together, and then a pack of 11 broke away.
There is the pack of 11. Joe Davies just at the back, not able to hold on to the pace. The Swiss skiers looking very good on the descents. They had good skis today. The Japanese skier Hirose right in there as well. Schumacher from the US. The Swiss team pushing the pace out there. But then Jonas Vika goes to the front, makes the attack, and takes a World U23 championship. We will be back shortly. Okay, we're back, and we're going to go down to some of our top finishers with Tom Stephen and an interview.
What great tactical racing by our winners today.
Hey, thanks guys. I'm here with U23 winner Jonas Vika. Take me through the race today. How does it feel?
Right now it feels so great, but it was hard out there. So the first rounds was just trying to make some make a smaller group, and but I realized that if you're going to go from the front, it was hopeless. So I just laid back and rested my legs for the finish sprint.
Was your original plan to try to break away, or were you hoping for a sprint finish?
I mean, the Norwegian squad had a common goal to just go from the front and get a gap, but I mean the snow today was a bit slower than before, and it was quite easy to come from behind because of the flip trim. So we, yeah, it was just the sprint that mattered today.
You worked hard for that. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that was great to hear, trying to go out from the front like we saw in the junior races and the U23 men, but definitely Vika said it was just too hard to lead off the front. So he just, sat back there, that group of 11, chilled, rested his legs, and set himself up for that strong rocket boost up that final climb.
Yeah, he actually said it was hopeless to try and break away. They tried, and he said, okay, save my legs, save it for the finish. And he certainly did that with that attack on the final little climb, and then double pulling to a U23 World Championship and a gold medal. Okay, we're going to go down to Tom to talk to our second place finisher, Edvard Sandvik.
Drive to make this event just a little bit extra special in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. We really want.
Hey, thanks guys. I'm here with Edvard, number 2 in the World Juniors. How does it feel today?
I felt like a little stiff in the beginning, but after we understood that it's not possible to break away, we just tried to save energy for the last uphill.
When did you know it was going to be a sprint finish? Because I know there's a huge pack, and I imagine at some point okay, I got to rest up now. Walk me through that.
It was we felt like after lap 2, on the start of lap 3, no one had the chance to break away, so maybe lap 3.
Okay, and were you, leading up to that sprint finish, were you feeling ready, or were you like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this?
I felt like we had really good skis, so my goal was to we had a good position in the final corner and try to follow Vika, but I didn't manage.
Congratulations on your silver.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, Steve, that like you said, again, it was no one could lead, and so definitely those Norwegians wanted to try lead, tested it out those first 2 laps and realized this is hopeless, sat back, and seemed like we saw in the race, lap 3, lap 4, was those Swiss skiers trying to push that pace up over those climbs.
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear him say he felt he had good skis, so that gave them confidence that on the descent they weren't going to fall back and that they could challenge for the finish or just rest up. They would have a shot at the finish. Okay, so we're gonna go down to shortly gonna go down to Tom again, but just to highlight, so the 2 Norwegians, first and second, third Norwegian in 4th place. So the Norwegians very strong, and definitely they stayed at the front, set some pace, but also stayed relaxed.
But again, it's interesting from those interviews. They have a plan, a tactical plan going into the race. And he mentioned that the Norwegian plan was let's go out from the front, let's try push the pace, see if we can break things apart. But they clearly, after the 10K mark, saw that wasn't possible. Now these athletes have to adapt on the fly, come up, go to plan B. Okay, plan A is not working. We're going to plan B. Plan B is let's chill. Let's just remain in contact with this group, trust our skis, trust our form. And definitely Vika had the confidence from the sprint day that, he could out-sprint them.
Yeah, and he's got to be happy, right? When you're fourth and then you get a gold, so that's pretty good. So we're going to go down to Tom and talk to our bronze medalist, the Frenchman, Julien Arnaud.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'm here with Julia, number 3 in the race today. How was your race today?
It was really good. It was a tough race with all the Norwegian guys, Sweden, and all the other nation. And it's really great to take the third place with many great skills.
Were you ready for that sprint? Because it looked like a really hard sprint, but you were in there.
Yeah, I don't know how was the feeling of the others on mine too. So I put all I have in the last kilometers, and it's very great to take the first place.
Worked out pretty well for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, Steve, I wonder if that French team heard what the Norwegians were going to do, because he mentioned, oh, I'm just going to sit in behind the Norwegians and let them pull me around. And it seemed to work out really well for the French team, you know, a 3rd place and a 5th place out there today.
It's almost like they sensed, based on the strategy of Norway in the other races, the women's U23 and the junior races, that Norway was probably going to set a pace to try and draw people with a strong team, and they were just going to sit in there. And, you know, there was so many skiers in that pack that thought they could maybe get that medal, but Julien Arnaud just getting past Andreas Rie of Norway to make sure it wasn't an all-Norwegian podium. And speaking of podiums, in a few minutes, we're going to come up with our U23 Mastar Classic medal ceremony. So stick around for that, and we'll be back shortly.
Just an information for all of your safety, the course is closed. The course is not open for training. We have grooming on the course at this time, so please stay off the course. We do have grooming happening on the course, so the course is closed. Faites attention s'il vous plaît. Nous avons la machine de damage sur la piste. Veuillez quitter le parcours. Le parcours n'est pas ouvert pour entraînement. Le parcours n'est pas ouvert pour entraînement. Once again, course is closed. There is grooming happening on the course. Thank you. just another mention that the course is closed, ladies and gentlemen. The course is closed. Right now, grooming machines on the course, so please leave the course. Course is not open for training. Thank you. Merci. Just been told that for the skates, the course is now open. The course is now open for training for skate team. Thank you. Merci. Just been told the course is now open for training. Course now open for training. On vient de vous avertir. Le parcours est maintenant ouvert pour l'entraînement. Parcours est maintenant ouvert pour l'entraînement. Merci, thank you.
that we put up on the course, or the course do that? We have to take details down. I'll tell Andrea.
Come on, Jer.
Is it on time? on the dock. Keep punch.
Okay, we're going to go down to the awards ceremony and listen to the PA announcers present the awards here in Whistler Olympic Park.
Good afternoon, welcome to the Whistler Olympic Park and to the FIS Nordic Junior U23 World Ski Championships for the awards ceremony of cross country U23 Mass Start Classic 20K Men.
Bonjour et bienvenue au Parc olympique de Whistler pour les championnats du monde junior U23 FIS de ski nordique pour la cérémonie des vainqueurs du ski de fond U23, départ de masse 20 km hommes.
The medals will be presented by
Les médailles seront remises par
Niklas Carlson, Deputy Secretary General, FIS. Accompanied by
Accompagné par
Reed Carter, Vice Chair, Black Tusk Nordic Events Society. In 6th place, representing Sweden.
En 6e place, représentant la Suède,
Truls Gisselman. In 5th place, representing France.
En 5e place, représentant la France,
Rémi Bourdin. In 4th place, representing Norway.
En 4e place, représentant la Norvège,
Andreas Fjorden Rie. The bronze medalist representing France.
La médaille de bronze représentant la France,
Julien Arnaud. The silver medalist representing Norway.
La médaille d'argent représentant la Norvège,
Edvard Sandvik. The FIS gold medalist and 2023 FIS U23 World Champion for cross country, representing Norway.
Votre médaillé d'or et champion du monde 2023, représentant la Norvège,
Jonas Vika. The gifts will be presented by
Les cadeaux seront présentés par
Nancy Richard, Director, Marketing and Communications, Black Tusk Nordic Events. And now, in honor of our world champion, the national anthem of Norway.
En l'honneur de notre champion du monde, l'hymne national de la Norvège.
One more time, your applause for our winners.
À nouveau, vos applaudissements pour nos gagnants.
Okay, what a podium, what a race. On the top of the podium, your pick, Jonas Vika.
Yeah, I think he skied it so smart, Steve. You know, in his interview, he said those first like 2-3 laps, they were really testing each other to see if anyone was going to break away. He realized no one was going to break away. It was just too tough to break away, and he focused on just sitting back, resting up, and saving it for that last 500-600 meters.
A great sprint by Edvard Sandvik to get second place. And how about France in third?
Their first medal of these championships, they got to be super pumped. You know, third place and right close behind them, fifth place as well. So French team must be celebrating today.
France seemed to really get the wax right today, and they had some great racing. And, you know, this is just day 4 that's wrapping up. We got 6 more days of competition. The team event for Nordic Combined coming up tomorrow. Billy and Max will be in the booth taking you through it. Cross country will restart on Thursday with the interval start with the skate races. Really looking forward to that. And I think someone will be hungry from the Norwegian team.
Oh, for sure. Ree is looking really strong for that skate race.
Yeah, 4th place today. Very strong skater. But today, this afternoon, it was the under 23 men 20K mass start classic. A huge pack for quite a bit of the race. Norwegians leading. The Americans up there, the French up there. The Swedes trying to push the pace. Gus Schumacher from the US with a solid race today. But the Swedes pushing the pace. Hiroshi of Japan was in there. The French having the skis, but the Swiss tried to push on the last lap, but not enough Still 3 Norwegians in that pack. The Swiss still pushing. Then the final descent.
Yeah, look at Vika. Oh, Vika just set himself up perfectly for that final climb and maintain that lead all the way into the finish.
Yes, 2 Norwegians first and second, but France getting their first medal of these U23 World Championships. It was Jonas Vika, Edvard Sandvik, and Julian Arnaud. There's Jonas Vika on the top step. There's your podium, folks. What a battle that was here at Whistler Olympic Park. There's your top 10. Switzerland, 2 in the top 10. Italy in there. 2 Frenchmen in the top 10 as well.
Exactly, 2 Frenchmen in the top 5, so great racing for them. And Gus Schumacher, and another one of my favorites in 7th place. And there we go, top Canadian Remy Trolet. Again, we heard Eric Denies earlier today, just coming off some health issues, some sickness, so great to see him still racing strong and up there with a 17th place finish.
Max Holman from Thunder Bay, one of the Canadians there, top 25. Erickson Moore, another skier that trains with the Thunder Bay program, in 40th. Luke Jagger, 33rd for the U.S. Earson, who was a medalist in the sprint, 41st today. Also in there, Joe Davies, the Whistler native, now with the Great Britain.
And it's great to see, like nations like Brazil and Chile competing here at these championships.
Yeah, many of these countries, their first ever FIS Nordic Junior U23 World Ski Championships. So coming up tomorrow, it's the Team Nordic Combined event for men's. And we had some great racing today. What a big day here. The women earlier, but the men, it was another slugfest. Came down to 11 skiers.
2 big battles out there, yes, and definitely in this men's race.
It was victorious Jonas Vika here in Whistler on the top step. We'll see you tomorrow.